Greetings and salutations. Welcome to my Diablo 4 Beginner Guide. We will talk about certain mechanics that will help you at your start of the game to understand how the game is played, what is important, and what will help you on your adventures onwards. Maybe even some of the information will be new to the veterans among you, so buckle up and enjoy. Now comes the most important part of the game, picking and choosing your class. The classes range from your very brute close combat barbarian to a minion controlling and blood sucking and dark magic necromancer to your typical sorcerer wielding the powers of fire and ice, up to your rogue who can be up close and personal or range if you so prefer and are afraid of getting squashed, or your druid if you want to change into wolves, bears, or as you can see, control the weather. If there is the best class or the strongest one, I don't think so. There is your class and the class that you will have most fun with, so please go ahead, try them out, each and every one, and see what suits your playstyle best. Once you choose your class, you can switch between male and female, and then either choose one of the presets and go with it, or go in depth and customize to your liking your character, up from facial to body details, different face styles, different skins, colors for your eyes, different hairstyles and beards, and colors for the hair, and then of course different accessories to put on your character for those close-up shots in the cutscenes in game to see your creation from up close. We've even given some body painting and so on and so forth. Once you've done with that and you're happy with the character looks, this is definitely not something that I would go for. Maybe click R for some randomizer. There we go, that fits a little bit better. And you could go to finalize. You choose a character name that will be shown next to your battle tag, and then of course you can choose if you want to play softcore. That means you can die as much as you want to and repair your items, or click on if you're daring hardcore and go with a perma-die or permadeath run. In difficulty, there's nothing different between hardcore and normal. Only the difference is if your character dies, it is over and you have to start from the beginning. Once you have finished the main campaign, you can, with new characters, skip campaigns. You don't have to do all the introduction parts and go through the storyline again. A big part of Diablo 4 is, of course, its skill system and what kind of build you want to go for. There's, of course, all kinds of guides of special builds and the most OP and the most powerful and the most whatsoever. But I say go with what makes most fun for you. Try to find your own synergies. Try to play around, especially if you're not going hardcore and need to survive on these primitive conditions. Go and have fun. Play around with abilities, see what kind of synergies there are, think of a character, visualize them, and try to make the abilities maybe fit to the character that you have in mind. For example, over here we are playing as Morgana, and I can see Morgana, for example, being cold-hearted, and I would like her to be good with ice spells. We have here a variation of ice, fire, and shock spells. And we're gonna go for Frostbolt. Frostbolt, for example, deals 13 to 16 damage and has a 50% chance to chill an enemy. Further down we have branches of it, where we can branch into left and right with every skill. So the next would be Frostbolt has a 50% chance to explode on a chilled enemy, hitting surrounding enemies. Chance increased. The chance increased to 100 if the enemy is frozen. So if we manage to freeze the enemy, then this chance jumps up from 15 to 100 and they explode if we use the Frostbolt on them. Further down the road, we can, for example, see the Frostbolt generates 4 mana when hitting chilled or frozen enemies. So that will give us some mana back whenever we hit chilled enemies. So using here the first 2 points will unlock the next one, the so-called core skills, and then it goes on and on like this. Every time you use more and more points, it will unlock the next branch for you. Now, the basic idea is to find a synergy that works well together. So since we're going for frost and chills, this is kind of our vibe and theme here of the Morgana build. We would like to grab, for example, Frozen Orb. Unleashes an orb that chills for a 34% chance and then explodes into shards and can even go into an Frozen Orb explosion. So we're grabbing this here so we can get the chance of chilling enemies. And then we can go over here. When cast above 50 mana, Frozen Orb's explosion damage is increased by 30%. So the explosion of that orb does an increased damage of 30. Perfect. Then we can branch off and see when the explosion happens, I would like all enemies that are hit by it be vulnerable for 2 seconds. And it has a 25% chance. And if it's an enemy frozen, then of course it is vulnerable instantly. Or over here, if the Frozen Orb explodes, restores 5 mana when hitting a frozen enemy. So we can, for example, work on that recovering mana thing. So use those to, boost our mana intake and take those back. And with that, we have unlocked the next one. That is a defensive skill this time. And here we could say, for example, we want an ice armor that will give us a barrier around us for 6 seconds, absorbing any physical damage towards us while it is active. Or we could say Frost Nova unleashes a torrent of frost, freezing enemies around you for 3 seconds. Since we are kind of working with the frost thingies and wants people to be frozen in order for our abilities to even hit harder, let's try the Frost Nova out. Yeah, right, so let's grab the Frost Nova. What else do we have here? Killing enemies frozen by Frost Nova reduces its cooldown by 1 second. There we go. And then Frost Nova generates mana per hit. Frost Nova makes enemy vulnerable. Let's keep on that mana thing to keep up the mana flow so we can keep on shooting non-stop. So we have these 3 abilities now. They automatically are assigned down here into your slot bar, where you can hold shift and use your abilities while you stand still. Or you can wait to have a target in front of you and click on it with left click or right click, and it automatically does it. Shift click is a very useful tool to use. Of course, if you play on controllers, there will be other control assignments. So we have down here, for example, the Marauder, and let's try it out. So let's see, Frost Nova, they're iced, and now shooting at them makes them explode and hitting the other targets. Perfect. It is working as intended. And that's basically it. Play around with the abilities that you find mostly fun, and try to find synergies like this chilled and extra damage when they're frozen. And of course, let me know in the comments down below what kind of build you want to go for, and maybe I can help you create said builds as you are planning for it, or want any answers, I am there for you to help you out. What would be Diablo 4 without items? Of course, we have an action RPG, so it is all about items. What kind of items you have, what kind of modifications they have on, and how would they complement your build. Of course, you want to increase overall your armor stats on your units to be able to sustain and survive longer. But most of all, you want modifications on your items that are complementing your build. Depending on what kind of abilities you end up using and you like using, as we talked in the previous section, you want items complementing said skills. So for example, over here we have the Ice Shard Shot, right? It's a basic skill. And we have this staff over here that says basic skill damage is increased by 3.5%. So that means every basic skill that I am using over there will be increased by 3.5 of its damage. It is actually super easy and not that complicated whenever you have a certain specific, like over here, damage to crowd control enemies will be increased by 6%. What does it mean? When is an enemy crowd controlled? Or what kind of ability is triggering that perk to be available? Go to your abilities, go to keyword search, and then click on crowd control. For example, we just had that item with crowd control, right? So we're clicking on crowd control, we're going back here, and now it highlights every ability that is triggering crowd control on the enemy. Using it on the enemy will consider them to be crowd control for a certain amount of period of time. For example, over here, we have a 50% chance to make the enemy being chilled for a certain amount of time. As long as he is chilled, the enemy is considered crowd control. So if we would use the said staff over here, if they are chilled and I shoot them again, I will do a percentage of 6% more damage on them. And that's basically it. It is a fair and simple. Look for items that complement your builds. Look for items that are increasing the damage on what you do. And of course, resistances and other likes are also coming in play, making you more defensible from oncoming attacks. That's all the magic that is all about. Figure out the modifiers if they complement your builds and your ability. What are monster fixes? Monster fixes are special abilities for your mobs that will appear fighting you. You will have them under their health bar, displacing in certain icons. In this case, we are having the ice icon. That means my enemy will cast little circles around me that will start to charge up. If I do stand them when the charge up is ended, I will be iced and frozen to place, and that might very much be the end of your character. So be very careful where you stand. Make sure to understand all the icons and what kind of ability they trigger. Take your time, learn them, and counter them with your movements or your abilities. The Renown system in the game and the statues of Lilith are very simple to explain. Let's start with these statues. The statues are scattered all over the map and sometimes very nastily hidden in little nooks and crannies for you to find them. What they do, they will increase your passive attributes, and they will also increase some capacities of currencies that you can carry around with you. If you find them, their attribute boost will transition to all of your characters. Hardcore characters will share the pool of the statues that you found, and softcore characters will share the pool of the statues that you found. So, for example, if you have one character that has explored all the map, has found all the statues, all those attributes will be available for all your other characters. Softcore characters only together, hardcore characters only together. The Renown system is also very simple. Every map has a multitude of dungeons, a multitude of side quests, points of interest, waypoints, and of course discovering the map. If we hop over here on the map right now and we click on W to hop into the Renown, we can see over here what kind of thing gives how many points. Finding waypoints gives us 20, beating a stronghold gives 100, doing a side quest gives us 20, doing a dungeon 30, and so on and so forth. As you fulfill each bar, they will give you a personal bonus for the character, so you get XP and gold, and they will unlock a global thing for all of your characters. So over here, claimed by each character, unlocks for all characters on a realm, meaning all your hardcore characters again together, all your softcore characters again together. So my hardcore characters, for example, will have, when they start, already 2 skill points, 1 additional potion capacity, max obelisk carry capacity, and when I reach level 50, plus 4 paragon points. That will help me in my progression to be a lot faster and be way easier to be back at it if you want to start a new character, for example, and you can just go from the get-go on higher tier difficulties. Marking items as trash. When you hover over an item, you can see hotkeys assigned to it. Right-click, left-click, shift, left-click to link, shift to compare it to other items, and then mark as junk. For me, it's space. For controllers, probably something else, or if you have other hotkeys, and then it will scratch it out. And whenever you go to a vendor and click then on selling any of your items, it will see there, right-click, sell all junk. So as everything else is marked as junk, I'll just click once and it sells everything for me. Improving your inventory will also be a very important factor of the game, especially later on. I recommend to start improving your items only around level 50 and before, everything that you don't need either sell or take apart and salvage by the blacksmith, so you get your resources to be able to upgrade your later items that you want. Important here to know is when you upgrade an item to its max potential, like this one over here, it says over here rank 2 of Flurry. If I upgrade this completely through to max, it now gives me a rank 3 of that said ability. One of the most important vendors and helpers is the occultist. The occultist is everything around your legendary items. In here you can extract aspects from legendary items. So this ability, for example, upon taking damage, surrounded by enemies, etc., I can extract that and then I own then that aspect. Then I can imprint it on another item, for example a normal item, and make it from a rare item into a legendary item. Although, keep in mind, the imprinted item cannot be extracted again, so you are losing your imprinting thing. Have always a look out for good abilities. We can see over here it says 2 out of 7 in the brackets in the middle that this ability will trigger, proc, whatsoever. Keep out for those numbers. The more it is to the number to the right, the higher is this imprint, or basically this ability. So depending on what kind of build you're going for, what kind of imprints you want those numbers to be as high as possible. Since we are now talking about legendary abilities, keep an eye out to not duplicate them. If you have the same ability in your equipped system, one of them, the lower one, will be grayed out and not function. So basically losing a slot for a potential imprinted or used special ability for your legendary items. Last but not least, you can pet the dog. Go over to the dog, go into your emote wheel and click on hello. You will pet the dog, and then the dog is kind of bound to you and will follow you around wherever you go. So it will even follow you out of town, but be aware, the dog will not survive any second out there of dealing with the monsters. I hope the tutorial was helpful for you and you could learn a little bit out of it. Let me know in the comments down below what kind of tip was helpful for you. Let me know if we should go into more advanced stuff like Paragon points and legendary items and other procs and abilities and how they function. And of course, if you have any questions depending on builds, let me know. The link to the Discord is down below. Hop on in, become part of the community, and enjoy slaughtering demons. Until next time, bye-bye.